Hi. Um, I'm, uh, I'm going to give you some techniques on persuasive speaking. Okay, let's try that again. Hi, I'm going to give you some brief and quick and easy tips on persuasive speaking so that when you're delivering your speech, you can come up here appearing confident and communicating what you really want to communicate to your audience. So, first off, on the day of the presentation, it's very important that you make sure you're dressed to the nines. Dress in your Sunday best, or if you were going to a wedding or a funeral or some other important occasion. Alright, the day of the presentation is where you do want to look very nice. People aren't going to take you seriously if you're dressed like a slob, like you're typically dressed when you come to school. So, that means for boys, button-down shirt, some kind of tie. Girls, some other kind of formal dress, alright? It doesn't have to be a dress, but formal wear. No t-shirts, no jeans, don't look like a slob. Also, if you have long hair, it's important that it is not in your eyes. Make sure if it's super long hair, it's tied back in some sort, or at least make sure it's well coiffed, where it will not fall into your eyes while you're speaking, or else that's going to cause you to get it out of your eyes and be really distracting. Alright, dress for success. Secondly, eye contact is really important. Now that is a hard thing to do unless you are super prepared. If you're well rehearsed, eye contact is going to be a little bit easier. But it's also kind of nervous giving eye contact to your friends, especially if they're making funny faces. Or you're just really embarrassed to be up here, which is pretty natural. One little trick for that is to make sure that you don't give them direct eye contact, but look just barely above their heads. They will have no idea, and it works. Also, when you're addressing a large audience, make sure that you kind of give them equal time. So just don't stare at one spot ahead. Make sure you're looking around the room and giving all of them some equal eye contact. Okay? Third tip. It's really important, if you're really nervous, that you do memorize the very first paragraph of your essay. You don't have to memorize the whole thing. You can have your speech verbatim if you want, right up here at the podium, if you choose to use it. But memorizing that first paragraph starts you off on a really good foot. So, it will take a little extra work, but well worth the effort. Tip 4, stance and posture. It's really important that you stand up straight. Slouching kind of communicates that you're, scared out of your boots and that you really don't want to be here. You know the term, fake it till you make it? Exactly. So, it's really important to have a confident posture with your elbows back, your chest expanded, and also making sure that your legs are definitely well planted, kind of in line with your shoulders. That way it's preventing you from swaying back and forth, which a lot of kids do. Also, twisting your legs is really bad, but keeping a strong stance will kind of help keep you grounded, keep you from fidgeting, and make you appear more confident. Another little tip that I learned from another video, if you actually go out in the hall or the bathroom before your speech and look in the mirror and just practice that confident pose for 2 minutes, you actually will gain confidence. It's a really cool, tricky psychological thing. So try it out. Fake it till you make it. Also, a couple things going along with posture. Do not have your hands in your pockets. That makes you shrug your shoulders, and it's going to be a terrible way to throw you off. Also, be very careful not to do the hair brushing thing or other kind of nervous tics or phantom itches. It's very distracting. All right? So again, keep grounded. If you choose to use the podium, that kind of helps hide a lot of the possible nervousness. But even if your legs are hiding, they might not be able to see you shake, but they will see something. And especially if you're swaying or bobbing, the podium is not going to hide that. So again, you can choose to use the podium or not. Most people do use the podium, but remember, the podium does not hide everything. You still got to have a good posture. Okay, tip 5, facial expressions and tone. When you're up here and nervous, it's really easy to be monotone and just kind of get through your speech and just go through it. But if you're going to be an effective communicator, you have to have some natural increase and decrease in volume, and you're going to have to show emotion that's appropriate to your speech. So if there's serious moments, have a serious facial expression. If there's something that's funny, it's okay to laugh and just express that humor. All right? Make sure your facial expression is appropriate. This is where looking into a mirror or recording yourself on video comes in really handy, especially if you can have a friend kind of criticize or give you some constructive feedback on how your facial expressions and your tone is doing. Okay, tip 6, hand gestures. It's very important. We naturally are people that communicate with our hands, much more than we even think about. However, when you're nervous in front of the podium, hand gestures seem to go away. So you're going to have to practice including those into your speech. It's very a good way to kind of welcome your audience. Remember, most communication is nonverbal, so hand gestures are important, but don't overdo it. If you're up in front of the podium and you're just doing this the entire time, it's going to be distracting. So actually plan out the times in your speech where you're going to have hand gestures for emphasis. I like to joke around that there's been, if you watch presidents give speech, you'll notice quite frequently how they have some signature hand gestures. Way back, President Clinton, he had the non-threatening thumb pointing to emphasize. If you point with your finger, that's a little too threatening for your audience. That's why President Clinton decided to kind of just do this, much less threatening. All the pointing is coming back to himself. But even if you need a prop, like a pen, I know Bob Dole, who was a presidential candidate, he actually had a partially paralyzed arm, but he used it to his advantage by putting a pen there, because he was a legislator and he wrote a lot of bills. It seemed like he was always ready to write a bill or do something important with his pen. You know, the pen is mightier than the sword, and he always had that pen in his hand, even though it couldn't really move his arm. He still had hand gestures that kind of emphasize what he's trying to say. Now, you can pound the podium, but that's kind of hard to do in front of a bunch of 8th graders without them giggling. So only pound the podium if you can do it appropriately and if it really is warranted. There you go. The double open-handed gesture is also a very popular one for including your audience. But there's just play around with a few hand gestures on how to kind of emphasize what you're saying with your body language. Okay, next tip. You're going to be called to use a lot of visuals. All right. However, a lot of kids make the mistake of just putting their visuals up, whether digitally or on paper, and just leaving them there throughout the speech. If you're going to be using visuals, you naturally have to make reference to them. You may even need to explain them to your audience to have the point or the impact of this visual to come across. Like, here's the growth of Mr. Stoll's awesomeness over time. Here's time, here's awesomeness. As you can see, he just keeps getting cooler. All right? So, if you have visuals, you need to plan it in your speech to make reference to them, both verbally and through hand gestures. Okay, so there are a few other tips out there, but those are the big ones. Confidence is key. Fake it till you make it. These few tips are really going to help you out. But the biggest thing, of course, is practice, practice, practice. The more times you practice this thing in front of other people, in front of a video recording, or in front of a mirror, or in front of your family, the better off you're going to be. All right. Good luck. Go get 'em.